Wager Talk Today, and it is Thursday, December the 7th. We are closer to the weekend as we speak, and we got a loaded card here on Thursday talking some college basketball, NBA, NFL, even some MMA. Loaded show with Ralph Michaels, Marco D'Angelo, and Kyle Anthony. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. He is in Vegas. He is inching his way ever closer to Teddy Covers as we speak. And that is my co-host, Teddy Covers, who, of course, is with us every Wager Talk Today episode. And let's bring on our first guest, Ralph Michaels, the chart master, stat daddy, father of Jeff. Ralph, great to see you today on Thursday.
I am so confused. It is not Friday, but guys, I'll be moving to the Thursday spot permanently. So if you're not used to seeing the charts on Thursday, you can start marking your calendars.
Yeah, it's one of those weeks. Ever since Thanksgiving, it's like Tuesday felt like Thursday and Friday felt like Monday. Today is Thursday. And that means we have NFL for tonight, obviously, the showdown between the Steelers and the Patriots. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But we're going to start with some college basketball, Ralph. Iowa State, the Cy-Hawk Challenge. Right now, looking at the Wager Talk Live odds screen, I'm seeing Iowa State 7-point home favorites, total sitting at 153. Hawkeyes just got blown out in West Lafayette in their last road tilt. Will they fare better tonight? How do you break it down? Iowa State.
Well, I do want to preface it by 90% of the time, I always give you guys client releases when I'm here on Wager Talk. I passed today. It's a very small college basketball card, but I do have a clear opinion on this Iowa team. And you look at Iowa and their losses this year. Yes, they come in at 5-3. But the losses, maybe the three best losses in all of college basketball. On the road at Creighton, neutral setting against Oklahoma, and then you go on the road to play Purdue, a team that's been, named as the best team or one of the best teams in college basketball. You look at the Iowa game, and they didn't extend much effort. Only one player played over 30 minutes, and the reason they lost that Purdue game like they did was clearly Zach Edey. 25 points, 9 of 10 shooting. It led to a 21-point loss. But that game was Monday. Again, they didn't play many people. Iowa overall on the season has played the number 82 schedule. And again, they've played 4 top 70 teams, beating Seton Hall and losing the other 3. When you look at Iowa against those top opponents, they actually have not done well as a huge favorite. They're 0-3 as a favorite of 20 or more, but they're 3-2 against the spread as McCaffrey tries to get this lineup sorted out. But Iowa State is simply a fade for me. They come in 6-2. You can say, well, the loss against A&M on a neutral setting was great, but they also lost to Virginia Tech, who Ken Palm has number 60. They've played the number 289 schedule. And oh yeah, by the way, the only teams they've covered against this year were teams that Ken Palm has at 214 or higher. I think this number's too high for this in-state rivalry. Iowa's won 5 of the last 7. I will be backing the Hawkeyes tonight in Ames, Iowa.
Ralph says, take a look at Iowa plus the points at Iowa State. And when we look at series history, and in college hoops, I don't know how much series history matters all that much, but Iowa's had a hard time winning on this floor. They have one win in Ames since 2005. So it's been a problematic venue for them. I saw a quote from TJ Otzelberger talking about how he thought the home crowd has the potential to be as good as any home crowd in the country tonight. Does it worry you at all about the Hawkeyes' inability to win on their in-state rivals' home floor?
Yeah, Teddy, always it's a factor. Obviously, the rivalry makes it a little bit different, but this team has played at Creighton. They covered. They played at Purdue. I mentioned they lost. So you've already played at 2 very good, difficult venues. I would be much more apt to not have an opinion on them if this was their first true road game or their first true road game in a hostile setting. They've clearly played at 2 very hostile settings. I think that helps settle the team down in this situation.
It's Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Ralph is an expert in college basketball, has been for decades, but he also does pretty well in the NFL. And Ralph, let's get to some charts. Chart Thursday, as you said here, moving forward on Wager Talk today. And this is an NFL teams versus losing versus winning teams. Anyway, break it down for us. We'll get more details after we see the chart here.
Well, you see the whole chart. There's a lot of data. This will be in the Bet On It TNA guide that I post in the next few hours. And I also put it on Twitter. You see the left-hand side of the chart, straight up ATS and over-under records when teams play an NFL opponent with a losing record. Now, that is not losing record currently. That is having a losing record at the time when they played them. Week number 1, when everyone was 0-0, is not included. On the right-hand side of the chart, you will see how NFL teams have done against opponents that were 500 or have a winning record. So when I went through the data, there's a lot of data, and it's tough to read here. I understand that. Take a closer look on Twitter at CalSportsLV. But I broke it up into 2 categories, guys. The bullies and the teams that play to the level of their competition, sorting out what I thought were the key points in this chart. First, let's take a look at the Dolphins. They're 7-0 against the spread against teams with a losing record. They're 0-4 ATS versus teams that are 500 or have a winning record. The Chargers, also a decent bully, 4-2 against losing teams, 1-4 against winning teams. On the bottom, 4 teams that I say are playing to the level of the competition. The Texans, 0-3-1 against losing teams against the spread, but they're 6-1 against winning teams. The Jaguars, 1-3 versus 6-1. The Bears, 0-3-1 versus 5-2. And the 49ers, 1-2 compared to 5-3. We look at home teams and road teams. We look at favorites and we look at dogs. This is basically another way just to tweak looking at how teams do as a favorite or a dog versus bad teams and good teams.
So I love the concept. I love isolating teams that are good bullies and not good when they step up in class. And I love isolating the concept of teams that do step up in class well, but you don't want to lay points with. My question for you, Ralph, is how much of this is predictive versus, obviously we're looking back right now at everything that's happened so far this season. How much of this is predictive moving forward?
Well, with teams like Miami, I think it is predictive. We've seen Miami struggle against good teams. We've seen them run up the score against bad teams. Obviously, there's nothing you could do at the beginning of the season and look at this chart because you need to have enough data. So you need to be at least 8 games into the season. So, it's something, Teddy, that I'm sharing data. I write down notes. I mark these bullies versus play to your level of opponents in my check marks for each matchup. It's gonna sway the board, let's say, as much as a 60% NFL angle. It may get you a check mark, maybe a check mark and a half or a positive or a negative in that category, but that's about it. It's nothing you're ever going to base a play on or even base a majority of a play on because of this data.
And Ralph, the one that jumped out to me right away was the Dolphins as well. And I did a solo video, which will be up later this week, I believe, on Wager Talk TV for that Monday night game. And it is Titans at Dolphins. And you have the 2 most extreme teams on each side of that chart playing each other Monday Night Football. And Dolphins currently a 13-point favorite. That might look like a big number, but once again, 7-0 ATS against losing teams. And the Titans are 4-8 straight up this season. And the Titans 1-6 ATS against winning teams. The Dolphins, of course, a winning team. So that's the one that jumped out to me as the Monday Night Football matchup between the Titans and Dolphins. And by the way, guys, first time in the history of the NFL, we have 2 Monday night games kicking off at the exact same time on 2 different networks this Monday night. It's something that was in the TV agreement. So yet another reason to check out Wager Talk TV is we have multiple videos for both Giants, Packers, and Titans, Dolphins Monday Night Football previews, along with every NFL game here for free on Wager Talk TV. All right, I also did a solo video, Ralph, for the Bills-Chiefs game, so I'm interested to get your take on this one. I could say it's one of the biggest games of the regular season, but Buffalo standing just 6-6 very well might be a must-win for the Bills. Only a 1.5-point dog at Kansas City. What are you doing with this one?
Yeah, we knew the Bills had a tough schedule coming on, but I do like the Bills here. You look at a desperate 6-6 team. that was one of the best teams in the NFL coming in. Well, why are they 6-6? You guys know I am big on NFL health and looking how many players each team has to use. Well, the Bills are basically last on defense. They have had to use 33 players on defense this year. That means every first string player, every second string player, and basically every third string player. Just to compare, on offense, they're one of the best. They've only used 24 players on offense, basically only the first string and the second string. But I look at the body of work. I look at Kansas City. Yes, they have a much better record, but they are actually plus 65 yards per game on the season. The Bills at 6-6 are plus 63 yards per game. So the statistical profile for the entire season is basically even. So I think the line is where it should be because these teams are much closer than their records indicate. But I'm also a big proponent of looking how teams do rush defense and rush offense the last 4 weeks when we get into November and December. The Bills D the last 4 weeks, the rush D, 106 yards per game, 3.7 yards per carry. Let's compare that to the KC rush D, allowing 121 yards per game and 5.3 yards per carry. On offense, the Bills with an edge, 141 yards per game, 4.8 yards per carry. There's nothing wrong with this offense. You look at the KC offense, though, 21 points against Miami, 9 points against Denver, 17 against Philly, 19 against Green Bay. They did have 31 in that win against Vegas. Matching up these teams, the Bills are now learning how to play with their very beleaguered defensive end. The last three foes, they held to 300, 155, and Philly had 378, but that was on the road against Philly. So I do like the Bills in this spot. I have not finalized my NFL card. I'm not sure if I'm going to be using the Bills or perhaps put them in a teaser, but clearly on the Buffalo Bills side.
Do you worry at all about Andy Reid off a loss and KC off a loss? They lost last week at Green Bay. So far this season, a perfect 3-0 straight up and against the spread off a loss dating back to last year. They won every game off a loss. They had one game where they only won by 6 where they were laying 12. But I think it's now 7-0 straight up, 6-1 ATS, every win by 4 points or more. The last time KC lost 2 in a row was week 2 and week 3 of the 2021 campaign. Do you worry about that angle for KC coming off a loss and how good they've been in this role?
Yes, no question. I'm looking right now, at the Bills. The Bills lost 2 games once. I'm looking how they've done off losses. They're a couple games over 500, but not nearly the size KC has. This is not the same KC team. Those numbers you talked about, Teddy, were going back for multiple years. Them having 4 losses just shows they're a different team. And again, they played Philadelphia at home, had to go to Vegas, had to go to Green Bay, now Buffalo, have to go to New England, a tough scheduling spot for them. To me, if I have 2 teams close to even, Bills are in desperation mode. KC may seem like in desperate mode off a loss, but in that division, they're really not. So concern, yes. Make me not like Buffalo enough to play it? No.
Talking some NFL with Ralph Michaels. And Ralph, before we let you go here on Thursday, I've got to ask you about the over-under tonight between the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The New England Patriots. The database was probably smoking when it saw a total of 30. And I bring up Iowa because we had the 2 lowest totals, I believe, in college football history the last month, right? In those 2 of those last 3 Iowa regular season games, closed as low as 25 for the season finale. The lowest conference championship total ever for Iowa, Michigan. All of those stayed under. This is as low as I can remember, Ralph. Do you have anything lower in the database other than even the closing line for the Fog Bowl was probably higher than this between the Eagles and Bears? And this isn't even weather related tonight. Look ahead last week was 35. It's now down to 30. Pittsburgh currently a 5.5-point favorite. I got to ask you, Ralph, about maybe the lowest over-under ever in the NFL, Patriots Steelers tonight.
Well, I'm going to guess the database only goes back to 1989. So I can go back to then. There's been one total as low or lower, depending on what this closes at. The Saints and the Eagles, October 13, 1991, had a total of 30. There have also been 8 totals of 30.5. So there have been 9 games with a total of 30 or 30.5 since 1989. FYI, they've gone 2-7 over under. But I will say this: if you just go up a
So
little
just to
bit,
clarify, Ralph, that's 7 to the under, correct? 7 of the 9 went under.
two overs, 7 unders, right? So
Gotcha.
77.8% to the under with a total of 30.5 or less. If I just go up a little bit to a total of 32, there's a lot more games involved. So I only went back to 2000. With a total of 32 or less, there have been 21 games in the last 22 years. They've had 7 overs and 13 unders, 65% to the under. So when we talk about those low totals, guys, they're low for a reason.
Sure, that's something that Prez has talked about a fair bit on the show. When you talk about the available spread for the bookmakers to put a total at, maybe this total should be 23, but the markets won't accept it. Lowest totals tend to go under. That's been the case for many years. Ralph Michaels, great segment. What do you have to promote at WagerTalk.com?
Hey guys, thank you everyone that took advantage of customer appreciation, the $5 day yesterday. Almost a record-setting day for us. So thank you for everyone that did that. Just say, hey, head to my homepage in the next hour and a half. You can download the Bet On It TNA guide. It's a PDF guide. It has 12 NFL situations plus some charts. And Kelly and I will be doing a special bowl TNA breaking down 20 bowl situations on how teams do off a win, off a loss, double-digit dogs, 6-win teams, playing a team the second time, a bunch of situations where you have the data in your hands. That'll be on my homepage by this weekend as well.
Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com, and don't forget about that $199 rest of year special. It's still available this week. Told everyone take advantage of it Monday because the sooner you get on board, the more days you get. It was about $7 a day on Monday. It's like $7.96 right now if you get on board. But if you wait till Sunday or Monday, Teddy, it's like $9 a day. But no matter what, get the rest of 2023 for $199. That's all sports, all access every day. Multiple cappers. You can sign up for multiple cappers and win big as you finish this calendar year. Teddy, I'm on the East Coast, but I always feel like Vegas is kind of my second home because I've been out there numerous times over the decades. And when I saw the UNLV shooting yesterday, obviously, it caught my attention for numerous reasons. But curious how that impacted you. And, of course, the NBA is out there as well for the semifinal games tonight for the in-season tournament. Some craziness at UNLV, and could have been a lot worse. The campus police and the police really reacted well yesterday. Just wondered your take and how that affected your day.
Well, I got to be honest. It's some of the scariest shit I've ever had as a parent yesterday. And the process really bugged me, all right? I get a text from Isaac around lunchtime. Hey, the school's locked down. There's a shooter somewhere in the area. What's the first thing you do? You boom, 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 boom. The heart starts beating. Hey, you call the wife. Hey, there's something going on at Isaac's school. Well, I turn on the news, and there's nothing going on at Isaac's school. There's nothing going on within 10 miles of Isaac's school. But there's an active shooter at UNLV. There's a shooter somewhere in the area. And, I turn on the news, and there's initial confusion, fog of war. It doesn't take long to sort it out. There's no active shooter. They're a long way from campus. But what happens with the shooting? Every school gets locked down. It scares every parent half to death. Every student, every teacher has trauma. And for nothing. It's another gun violence tragedy on a college campus. The UNLV game against Dayton got canceled. But the entire town still has, we freak out. We haven't forgotten October 1st. And then LeBron weighs in. They're out on the Strip. The Strip's less than 2 miles from campus. The lead story on ESPN last night, LeBron talking about the gun violence situation. And there's no answer for any of it. I mean, there really isn't. Not a fun experience. I don't recommend it to parents out there. And we were 10 miles away from anything that happened, and there was no trauma in our family. Other families have way worse days than I did yesterday. So I made my bets last night something of an afterthought. I'm still pissed off, though. My short list went 4-1, and I only went 1-1 for the clients. I should have played more yesterday. So it all comes down to that. Merrill. All's well that ends well, at least in my family. My condolences to those who didn't share my luck yesterday. But no fun right now in these situations. No fun at all. And I don't have an answer. Yeah. I'm a guy that likes to wrap my head around problems. This is a problem that there is no solution for. And it's not anything for this is a sports show. We're not here to talk about gun control, but gun control is not going to solve the problem. It's not.
Correct. You can't stop crazy. I've always said that in life, and there's always going to be tragedies. But one thing I will say is you can minimize it the best you can. And I don't know if it's campus police or local police. From what I've seen in the initial stories, they did an incredible job responding, not hesitating, taking out the shooter. 3 dead is awful, I think, is what it was, but it could have been 30. So they did a great job there, and I think they've also learned, obviously, from the tragedy on the Strip a few years ago, as you mentioned. So things are a little different in Vegas. But yeah, Teddy. What you don't want to hear is your school's locked down when it's not the school that has the shooting. They should have at least been like shooting in the city. Our school locked down as a precaution. Just something, 2 extra lines.
So now what? Right? They have soft lockdowns and hard lockdowns and this kind of lockdown. So yesterday was a soft lockdown, and Isaac, texted me from class. He's like, "Yeah, we have to be quiet and we have to stay away from the doors and the windows."
It doesn't sound
there's nobody within 10 miles. Again, the incident is literally like. This is the far west side of town. That's east of town.
Right.
But everybody freaks out. Everybody gets traumatized off of that, Teachers
and better safe than sorry. I don't disagree with that. But yeah, soft lockdown, stay away from the windows. That doesn't exactly coincide with each other on that one. Teddy covers. Let's bring on Marco D'Angelo. I want to talk to you guys real quick before we get to some NFL with Marco. Are either of you going to the in-season tournament games? What's the buzz around town, Marco? Is there excitement? I mean, I still think the NBA is close to getting to Vegas at some point. It's the only big sport missing right now.
Oh, absolutely. I am going to the afternoon game today at 2:00 Vegas time. So we'll be seeing a lot of scoring. And obviously, the tickets are split up. It's not a package deal for the 2 games. You got to get the 2 tickets. Guess which ticket's tougher to get? The night game, obviously, with the Lakers and LeBron. But I will be there for the afternoon game, and there will not be much defense in that game.
Yeah, Teddy, I should have known the Lakers would make it there. I should have used my NBA conspiracy theory in that semifinal or the quarterfinal game the other night, Teddy.
Yeah, sure. I'm not going to the game today. Kudos to you, Marco, for finding time to get out there and do that this afternoon. Should be a lot of fun. I find like I tend to go to a lot less of the games and tournaments and stuff in Vegas than I should. Maybe someday. But the workload's pretty heavy right now.
Yeah, Ted, we got to ask Marco, though, about his Pittsburgh Steelers against the Iowa Hawkeyes tonight. Patriots, Steelers. Ralph just had some great data, once again proving what Ralph and I and Teddy, Prez, we've all talked about for years. The lowest totals go under, the highest totals go over. And you mentioned that NBA game tonight. Teddy, by the way, is going to have a big game breakdown on Bucks Pacers in just a moment. That total was, Teddy, you sent it over at 254. I had to edit the show notes this morning because it was already 257. I haven't checked it since. We'll see where it is. And I did the NBA tip-off recording this morning. It was already up there. So, yeah, huge NBA total, obviously, the Pacers-Bucks. But we got a really low total tonight. Ralph touched on the total a bit, but I want to get your thoughts, Marco, on the side. Pittsburgh was 6. I'm seeing some 5.5s now. It's coming down a bit.
Yeah, it is. And obviously, Pittsburgh's got their own problems as well. And, guys, I've been coming on the show here for weeks, and every week it seems I'm bringing a play on a Pittsburgh game, and we've been doing quite well betting with and against the Steelers. So I will hope to continue that trend. Now, full disclosure, on the opposite side of that, this New England Patriot team has been an absolute nightmare to me when games I've been involved with them, and I actually vowed several weeks ago that they were dead to me and that I would not be looking at their games. But I kind of had to look at this one. It's Thursday night, and it does involve the Steelers. Steelers coming off probably the worst loss in Mike Tomlin's tenure of head coach of the Steelers. And to be honest, that's been his MO. Mike Tomlin has a tendency, his teams seem to perform to the level of the competition. Now you're going to say, well, New England is another bad team. So does that not mean they play another bad game tonight? Well, 2 caveats to that. One, they're coming off a bad game, and Mike Tomlin's teams always respond well off of bad games. And 2, one of the best spots he's been as coach of the Steelers have been these primetime games. I look for a big effort tonight from the Steelers. We know all the woes that New England has. They've scored 13 points in 3 weeks. That's 3 games, 13 points. And I know we've made a lot of jokes in references to Iowa. Iowa's point production looks like an offensive juggernaut compared to New England's the last 3. But Pittsburgh, the offense, we all blamed Matt Canada, and rightfully so. Matt Canada was the wrong fit for this Steeler offense. But I got to be honest, I was a big Kenny Pickett fan. I still am, but he's got to burden a lot of this problem that the Steelers have had. Enter Mitch Trubisky tonight. And to me, I think he's playing with house money. He's got nothing to lose. He knows this is Kenny Pickett's team. He's coming in. All he can do is better his stock by performing well. And I think he will do that tonight. I know New England has a great defense, but Pittsburgh on a short week at home, I'm going to go ahead and look for them to get the job done tonight. Couple stats for you. I told you about Pittsburgh off a loss. Last 3 seasons, if they're coming off a loss of 10 points or more, they are 8-1 against the spread. And in Mike Tomlin's career, only 19 times has he lost by 14 points or more. The Steelers are 14-5 against the spread the following week since he's been head coach of the Steelers. I'm going to go ahead and lay the points with the Steelers tonight. I've got them winning 20-10. Oh, yeah, that adds up to 30.
So I came on the show on Monday and did a big game breakdown, also supporting Pittsburgh. I've got a free play video up right now on the WagerTalk YouTube channel talking about how I like the Steelers, or more that I don't like the Patriots this evening. So it's a Pittsburgh or pass scenario. My question to you, and you touched on it a little bit, I want you to touch on it a little bit more. Talk about how the difference between Pickett and Trubisky behind center for Pittsburgh. Is it a bonus? Is it a no power rating change whatsoever? Is it a negative? Normally, we see the starting quarterback get knocked out, and the markets don't like it all that much. This one appears to be a little bit different.
It's because of the performance of Pickett this season. Again, we all blamed Canada, but now Canada's gone. You can't blame him. And yeah, he got knocked out last week. Did you watch the game prior to him getting knocked out? He was dizzy last week. Okay, so to me, I think they're one in the same. And given the experience that Mitch Trubisky has, although, he never set the world on fire when he was with the Bears, I think that his experience will benefit the Steelers and have that little shot of adrenaline. We always talk about, the injured player theory. Everybody else gets excited, tries to play a little harder. As I said, Mitch has nothing to lose, Teddy. He could go out and let it rip. What's the worst that's going to happen? He's going to get benched
6
again.
interceptions.
Okay. Yeah. I
6 interceptions.
I don't see for anything. I would probably give it a slight upgrade at this point if you asked me to put a power rating to it.
Yeah, and just to put in perspective how beat up that Bills defense is, Ralph was on earlier, talked about how they've used more players, 33 players on defense than any team. The Patriots have scored 17 points or less in 7 of their last 8 games. The only game they haven't was when they beat Buffalo and put up 29 points on that Bills defense. New England has gone, by the way, 1-10 straight up in ATS in all other games this year, and they beat Buffalo, put up 29 points. That once again shows how beat up that Bills defense might very well be this season. I pointed this out yesterday, Marco, on the show. Patriots are getting up the fewest points in the NFL over the last 4 games. They've gone 0-4. And during that span, the Niners, Colts, Ravens, and I think Dolphins are the other 4. They've gone 14-2 straight up. So it's really mind-boggling what's going on in New England right now with how good the defense is and how bad the offense has been. And we're going to have the lowest total most likely in recent NFL history tonight when this game kicks off at 8 o'clock Eastern. All right, Marco, let's look at a Sunday NFL game while we have you here on the way out. Let's Texans-Jets. What are your thoughts on this one Sunday?
Well, guys, for me, you're talking about one ugly offensive team and go to another one. But the Jets, I think they're going to have some success this week. And I waited all week on this one because there were some rumblings of what they were going to do at quarterback. Was it going to be Zach Wilson? Was it not going to be? And the fact that we had Aaron Rodgers, on a talk show this week, giving his endorsement to Zach Wilson and saying that is the best opportunity for the Jets to win at this time. And it is. Okay. We saw what we got out of the backup quarterback last couple games for the Jets. And Houston, this is a play as much against Houston as it is me taking the Jets. I'm taking the Jets because I'm getting the better defense getting points. That's something I always like to look at in all sports, especially in the NFL and college football. Now we're looking at a Houston Texan team, which I'm going to tell you, I've loved this team all year. I love what C.J. Stroud has done. They are probably the biggest surprise, them and the Indianapolis Colts, to have the records that they have right now. but you've got a 7-5 team that translates only to 4-8 against the spread. And the reason being is this is a team that is struggling to learn, not struggling, they're learning how to win and win by margins. And this is a spot where I am going to look at the Jets to get the job done against Houston, because I don't like this Houston defense. They make teams look decent against them with average quarterbacks. Yeah, CJ Stroud, this will be the toughest defense he's faced. Go back and look at their entire card of what they've done. And this is a team that hasn't faced the defense anywhere near what they're going to see with the Jets. And if Aaron Rodgers has given his blessing to Zach Wilson, I think the rest of the team in that locker room is going to get behind Zach Wilson this week, and you're going to see a good effort. Now, if it's another bad effort this week from the Jets, then you just move them over to the do not play list, Teddy. But I think for 1 week, we're going to get the best effort out of the Jets. Let's see, plus the points. I see this as a field goal type game either way. I'm taking the Jets 20-16 to get the job done.
What's the difference between the Jets and the Patriots?
They're both good defenses and both can't. Yeah, they're one in the same basically. I think
Jets aren't winning games any more than New England is. Jets defense has stepped up every much as New England has. Jets aren't covering point spreads. Jets can't move the football. You just gave a great case for betting against New England. Now you're making a case for betting on the Jets, and it feels to me like they're the same team.
I think the Jets have more offensive playmakers than New England does. I have no confidence in Mac Jones at all, and even less in Bailey Zappe. Zach Wilson at least has had some games where he's looked good. The Kansas City game comes to mind. He played lights out in that game, so there's a better upside. It might be small, but there's a better upside.
The difference for me, Teddy, is they have a Hall of Fame quarterback sitting on the bench trying to get healthy. So there's hope. Be the only answer. I mean, this Jets offense has now scored 13 points or less in 6 straight games. We talk about how bad New England is. Can you imagine, guys, if the Jets were playing the Patriots this week? We would have like a 28, a 27. I mean, how low would that total have to be? Pittsburgh's offense not been great either, but obviously the Jets offense is struggling. But they did give up 32 and 34 against Buffalo and Miami. I know that the Texans are at that level, but we'll see, Marco. It'll be an interesting game here to see if Houston can get it done on the road. Their offense has sputtered, by the way, 22 or less in 3 straight games after some monster games before that. Marco D'Angelo, you catch him on Bet On It, of course. That's every Wednesday. That's up there right now on WagerTalk TV. And Marco, let us know what else you have going on at WagerTalk.com.
Well, I don't have today's plays up yet. Those will be up when I'm done with the show. And I'm looking at a college football game for the Bulls that I think I'm going to be posting later today or tomorrow. It will be my first 5% play of the college bowl season, being a little tentative with all of the transfers, the opt-outs. It makes it difficult during the bowl season. You want to get the best number. We always do. But you don't want to jump the gun and have a couple guys opt out afterwards and create havoc for you. So check that out. Best way to do it, Ralph already mentioned it, that $199 deal. Grab the rest of 2023. You're never going to miss a play. We've been rolling in the NBA and hockey as well. I'm very selective with those plays, but they've been winning. We cashed another 4% play last night.
Marco D'Angelo, WagerTalk.com. And like you said, that $199 all access for the rest of 2023 is still available. And it's still under $8 a day. If you wait till tomorrow, it's going to be a little over $8. If you wait till the weekend, it's almost $9 a day. Why wait? Every day you get on is a day sooner. You get the rest of 2023 for one price. Every capper available. No promo code needed. Check it out, WagerTalk.com. Marco is on his way to the Bucks-Pacers game, which tips off at 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Vegas time. Teddy covers. Give me a big game breakdown.
Big game breakdown time. Milwaukee and Indiana right here in Las Vegas. And you look at these scores in the recent meetings. Last year, 149 to 136, 139, 123, 141 to 131, 132 to 119. Over. First meeting this year, 126 to 124, over 239 and a half. But tonight's total is 257 and a half. And the wise guys are betting it up. I get it. If you're going to bet this, I wouldn't necessarily want to watch it because we're going to make a case for the under between the Bucs and the Pacers. Two key factors for me to consider. I understand Indiana's going to try to run. That's what they do. Damian Lillard, quote, "We got to be ready to defend these guys." All right? Which is a quote that says, hey, we're thinking about defense. They spread the floor. They get into the paint. They kick it out. They have a lot of shooters. They got a shooting big man. We're going to have to be really sharp. It's going to be a good game. There's interest. There's talk about defense right from the get-go. Milwaukee's coming off a game, and again, I had a big ticket on the Knicks. It was wrong, but the Bucs hit everything the other night. 60% from two-point range, 60% from three-point range. Knicks aren't a bad defensive team by any stretch of the imagination, and they weren't a terrible defensive team that night. Milwaukee was just draining shots. When you have a team that's just off a 60% performance from two-point range and from three-point range and hung all those points up on the scoreboard, do you expect that same level of offensive execution the next day? I don't. So with Milwaukee talking about playing defense, we have Milwaukee coming off a game in which they're not likely to match the offensive output. We have a first meeting between these two teams that at the total at the time, it went over by double digits. At this total, it would stay under with room to spare. Sorry, 257.5 is too high. I expect both teams to get to 120. Maybe someone gets to 130. Both teams to 130? Nuh-uh. This game's going under. Too many points. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Yeah, Teddy, I broke this game down as well on the NBA Tip-Off Show. Rob Vino covered the Kings and Lakers. I covered Bucks Pacers. So check out NBA Tip-Off this afternoon here on WagerTalk TV. We recorded that earlier today. And I gave out some player prop recommendations for this game. And yeah, the one thing that would worry me about the over, Teddy, is that it is a playoff caliber game. It's a semifinal. You got to expect teams want to get to the finals now. And playoff intensity does bring more defense. And this is a historically high total for a game that might have some defensive intensity for that reason.
It's also a neutral site game, and it's a game that's as an awkward start time. These guys aren't used to the starting games at 5 o'clock Eastern / 2 o'clock Pacific. Now, sometimes the awkward starts result in slow feet on the defensive end, but oftentimes the early start games, you get a sluggish quarter, you get a sluggish first half. Don't know that we'll see that here, but 257.5 is too much for this better.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Also, both teams in an unfamiliar arena, so it should affect the shooting a little bit. You know, you don't have the home team in the comfort zone, so I think that's an excellent point as well. And there's a lot of wiggle room. A lot of things have to go right, like Joe Ranieri and I say, to get over 257. And if you have just one little cold quarter, including the first quarter, you should be all right. So it's an interesting game to talk about. Once again, that's an early tip. Don't miss it. 5 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. And then I guess it's a college basketball scheduling thing. I don't know, because the other game's not till 9 o'clock Eastern. I think it's on TNT. So is that the reason you think?
They're doing they're clearing the arena, and you have to get new tickets for the late.
That's
game.
right.
So yeah, they're both playing in the same venue, but they got to clear the place out and let the other guys in.
Milk it. Gotta milk it. Milk them ticket sales. Yeah, that's a great point, Teddy. I was curious why they had the gap, and Marco did mention that. Man, if they got the demand, good for them. Let's get an NBA team in Vegas. It's only a matter of time, I think. It's funny, too, by the way, that the Sacramento Kings are playing the Lakers, because that's the team that's always been rumbled to come to Virginia Beach years ago. You know, Sacramento's always the team, and the Maloof brothers owned the Rio. They owned the Kings at the time, right? That's always been the team they always thought might get to Vegas. What do you make the over-under, Teddy, years when there's an NBA team in Vegas? 3.5? Under?
I don't know. That's a hard question. So first, I'll take over 3.5, because the NBA doesn't have the obvious teams that are looking for relocation like baseball does, where you have Tampa Bay and Oakland. Who in the NBA is looking to relocate? You know, there's not the one.
Not right now. Now that
Sacramento.
the Supersonics moved and the Kings are getting better, I think you're probably right about that.
Yeah.
And there's talk about bringing
the
Seattle
NBA comes
back,
to Vegas,
I think,
right? I would expect the NBA to come to Vegas when the league expands to 32 teams. They'll put a team in Seattle. They'll put a team in Vegas. They'll move someone. They'll probably move Memphis from the west to the east or something, and that'll be that. But not till the
with this
expansion.
thought. You know, I think the success of the Knights versus the Raiders and the A's, I don't think will be as successful either. I think we've seen that when you have a new team, the locals take to it more. So that also would be an excellent reason maybe to have a fresh expansion team, versus a relocation team. Although, I mean, the Raiders get some support, but obviously a lot of visiting fans come to watch those games as well. So it'd be interesting. Golden Knights, obviously a good case study of how to do it right, though. Make the finals your first year or so.
Yeah. This town loves winners. All right. And when the Knights started to win, I mean, the Knights were a good team right from the get-go. So that, the town really rallied around that squad like I've never seen before.
Yeah, in the NBA, obviously, one or two players, boom, you can have a franchise pretty quick as well, more so than any other sport. So it'll be interesting to see if it happens. I think you're right, though. An expansion team's probably when it's going to happen. Kyle Anthony, we've talked a lot of basketball. We talked a lot of football. Let's talk some mixed martial arts with the fight expert at WagerTalk.com, Kyle Anthony. Kyle, I'll throw it to you. What are we looking at this week in MMA action?
Yeah, we got some good things going on here. Only 2 more events left in 2023, so it's been a great year. We're going to finish the year off strong, and we've got Song Yadong here. He's minus 350 on the comeback. You've got Chris Gutierrez. He is plus 260. Now, looking at it this way here, you've got Song Yadong, 26 years old, power boxer. Guy's got all the goods on the feet. And then looking at her side, you've got Chris Gutierrez. He's a well-rounded guy overall, but more of a kickboxer. Now, when you look at really what Song Yadong has done here, he entered the UFC at 20 years old, roughly. He's 9-2-1 since entering the UFC. Absolutely fantastic. But if you look at the guys that he's lost to, very top-tier guys overall. I mean, yes, Kyler Phillips may not be there right now, but just a tough stylistic matchup when you're looking at it. The guy had a 5-inch reach advantage overall. He looked very good. He ended up kind of working at range, doing his thing, all those things. Very, very tough for a guy who wants to really push forward, look for the big shots with Song Yadong. That was a tough spot for him. The other one was Corey Sandhagen, who was an elite-level fighter overall, had a 6-inch height advantage, 3-inch reach advantage, and just was able to put it all together. But Gutierrez, his wins to get to this point, not very exciting overall. Dana Bagarel, who is on an 0-3 run, beat him. Frankie Edgar, also on an 0-3 run, and was a shell of himself at that point, also 0-3 run. And then Alia Tang, 2-1 in his last 3, but beat absolutely bottom feeders when you're looking at it. While Song Yadong, I thought it was really impressive where he fought Ricky Simon. Ricky Simon, a really good wrestler, can move forward, power, has a lot of great things overall. And the thing that he was able to do that I thought was great was defend the takedowns. He ended up going 2 for 9 on takedowns against Song, but the most interesting part of it all was the fact that only Ricky Simon had less than 1 minute of control time. To me, that just shows that he's going to be able to keep this on the feet. He's going to be able to work at distance and do what he needs to do. Now, the most important thing on the Gutierrez side is going to be the leg kicks. He's really good at that. He focuses on them. He spams them. But the best defense, besides checking a leg kick, the best defense for a leg kicker is pressure and volume. And that is exactly how Song Yadong fights. He moves forward. He's got big shots. He's willing to exchange very, very tight. This is going to be at the apex cage, 30% smaller cage. I think that's going to help him cut that distance, get in tight. And yes, this line is at minus 350, minus 380 at some books. I think this is a spot where Song Yadong can move forward, land the big shots. 3 of his last 4 were via knockout. I think that's where this is going here. You can get plus money around plus 120 on Song Yadong via knockout. I think that is the spot for him here. I think he gets the job done, and probably maybe more in the later rounds, but I do think Song Yadong gets that knockout victory, plus 120.
Look at the plus price. Song to win via knockout in the main event on Saturday. Let's talk about one from the undercard. Nasrat Haqparast against Jamie Mullarkey. It looks like the sharp money showing for Mullarkey. Haqparast was as high as minus 210. I'm seeing minus $2, minus 180 right now on the favorite. So there's some money coming from the dog. What do we do with this match?
Yeah, this one's an interesting one, and because we looked at, Nasrat, he had a lot of hype behind him. He was looking like he was going to be that next big thing kind of coming up, and he has struggled in certain spots. He's got great boxing, he's got great striking on the feet, and you've got Mullarkey, who is more of a grinder, who's going to kind of get in your face, push a pace, and wrestle. And when you're looking at it on the feet, I think that is where Nasrat is going to have a lot of success. He's going to be able to land him. He's going to work at distance. He's going to be able to utilize some of that range striking. I think also his strikes come out a lot quicker, a lot more faster developing combinations compared to Mullarkey, definitely a little bit more slower, a little bit more plodding, and that could be the situation. Now, really where I think that Mullarkey has the advantage is going to be the wrestling. And that really is where we have seen Nasrat struggle. He has definitely had a vulnerability when you're looking at that. Mullarkey is willing to get in there, willing to dive at legs, and a couple fights ago when Nasrat fought Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker is not a grappler. He's a well-rounded guy, durable, but he's not a guy who's going to wrestle all fight or really dive at legs. He was able to get 3 takedowns on Nasrat with 7 minutes of control time. That to me says a lot about what Nasrat can do, even when he's been taken down. Since that fight, there's been 3 fights he's had. He's only had to defend 1 takedown since that fight. He's fought strikers. He's fought guys he was able to fight on the feet. That to me really opens up opportunities for Mullarkey to work inside, get him down, get him up against the fence, and do a lot of great things. And I think the other part here is, even if you look at the last couple fights for both these guys, I actually lean Mullarkey kind of what he's done overall. You know, he beat Michael Johnson, he beat Francisco Prado, who I think Prado is definitely an up-and-comer, big, strong guy. He beat McDessie also, and then you look at it, Nasrat beat McDessie also, but it was arguably a loss for him. Then he fought Landon Quinones coming in on short notice, a UFC debut, and Nasrat was a minus 500. This was like a squash situation where he was supposed to go out there and steamroll Quinones, and it was a tight fight. It was close. It was, yes, Nasrat won, but it was a close fight overall. And the 2 fights prior, Bobby Green really beat him a good 188 strikes to 76. He ended up losing that fight, and then the Dan Hooker fight. So this is a spot where I agree with this line movement here. I think that Mullarkey has the style to really slow down and do the right things to Nasrat, get in tight, work him, bring him to the ground. So I do agree with this. I think that Mullarkey with that plus money around the plus 160 range, good spot. I think it's dog or pass spot, and I think Mullarkey gets it done.
Fight expert Kyle Anthony, I always talk about diversifying your portfolio. #1 return on investment capper in all sports at WagerTalk last year. He's a fight expert. By the way, bonus free play, another free play for you, underdog price on his page right now. Also a link to his UFC betting show. Kyle, tell us what else you've got going. So you've got a pack with at least, 5 best bets already for the UFC event this Saturday?
Yeah, so right now I've got 5 plays up. One of them is a 4% best bet. We're on a 6-1 run on best bets right now. Out of the 5 plays, 4 of them are at plus money. So really a spot where I found a lot of good spots for plus money value. We've been cashing, so we want to keep it going. Over 21 units over the last 6 events. So let's finish the year strong.
Yeah, he's 6-1 on his last 7 best bets. He's won over 20 units in the last 6 UFC events. What a great way to diversify and grow your bankroll. Speaking of all sports, Teddy, that $199 special is still available. I told people on Monday, get on board. Told people Tuesday, told them Wednesday. Well, I've gone 3-0 sweep this week already in college and pro basketball. I'm on an 18-5 run. So why wait any longer? Get that $199 rest of year special for myself, Steve Merrill, Teddy Covers, every other capper. No promo code needed right now at WagerTalk.com. Teddy, great show here on Thursday. Thanks to Ralph. Thanks to Kyle Anthony. And thanks to Marco D'Angelo. And Teddy, we'll do it again tomorrow on Friday.
Yeah, and I want to thank all you guys who've been watching both live and on replay. We appreciate your eyeballs very much. Best of luck with all your wagers on Thursday. Wager Talk Today with Steve Merrill and myself. We'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same channel. 9 a.m. here on the left coast. Noon for you back east. Between now and then, best of luck.